Hi everyone, and welcome to our first live Q&A for the fall and the summer too. We haven't done this in a while, but welcome everyone, and welcome Coach Veronika.
Thank you, Daniel. It's really nice to see you, and of course, everyone who is going to join.
Yeah, absolutely. And how's your summer been?
My summer has been exhausting because it's so different. When the kids go to school, to kindergarten, and the teachers and other people take care of their time. But I had to organize their time, so it was really exhausting. And but we made a few trips, and one of them actually I wanted to talk about like in this live Q&A, which could be interesting for others. And it was I challenged my sleep, and we went camping. And camping was something, when I suffered from insomnia, this was something unimaginable. I never thought I would ever be able like to go not only camping, but also I couldn't imagine that I would sleep in a different place because I was out of my comfort zone. I was so afraid how it will affect my sleep. There is this new pressure that I have to sleep in that new place because most likely I was on a trip or vacation, and I have to enjoy this time. And I saw that without sleep I couldn't enjoy it at all. So it was. Uh, so after basically I felt recovered, and this summer I decided like, okay, let's do this. And I have to say that I have to buy completely all the new equipment, even the tent and really everything. And I
Sorry,
really
to interrupt here, Veronika, but firstly, for everybody tuning in, I see there's quite a lot of people here. If you have questions, just post them in the comment section, and we'll get to them, at least as many as we can. But also for you, Veronika, you had to buy new equipment because you needed it, or because the old equipment was associated with the struggle.
I didn't have any. I didn't have any
Oh, you
tent.
didn't have any. Okay, got it.
Didn't have any mattresses. I didn't no sleeping bags, no nothing really. So and actually, I was quite curious how my sleep will be affected. And what happened was what I experienced already before, after I recovered from insomnia and learned what insomnia is about. That I welcomed the sleeplessness. I welcomed, or I kind of like expected, okay, most likely I'm not going to sleep well. And paradoxically, this often translates into sleeping better. I spent there like in the was only for 4 nights, but I could see that gradually with each night I slept better. The first night was really rough. I slept maybe 2 hours, but I didn't really freak about it. I did my favorite nocturnal activity when I couldn't sleep. I walked around the camping space, and I also wore the earplugs, the eye mask, like really these things that are, I took them from the place of self-kindness. Because sometimes at some point people may think like, okay, I'm going to face this fear like head on. I can't help myself with anything, but this is not true. You can make yourself as comfortable as you like it. And for me, it meant to have a eye mask, to have earplugs. And so really it was really interesting. Like the first night was really terrible. I slept really, I could really feel how my body and brain is in high alert. Even my heart was palpitating. I was like really wide awake, and maybe towards morning I got a couple of hours. That was it. And the next night I could feel like I felt like it looked like my brain already tested. Ah, okay, I could survive the first night. Maybe this is not something that can hurt us. So, uh, so really, the second night was a little bit better. And the third night and the fourth night, I didn't even had to use the earplugs, which was really nice because I have never thought before that I can sleep when there is noise around. And I never thought that even before I suffered from insomnia. I always was used to sleep really in peace and quiet, like at home and so on, right? And in a camping spot where there are other people, other campers, it's always a little bit noisy, and especially with unexpected noises like babies crying or somebody's playing some music and so on. And I really slept through all of that. And I really believe it's thanks to the education and knowing there is nothing going to hurt me, or that even if I don't sleep well, I can survive the day and I still can have a nice day. Because there are so many distractions, especially on a new place, that I'm not going to think and worry about sleep.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yes, thanks for sharing this, Coach Veronika. And for so many reasons. One is that so many people in our community think that once I'm over this struggle, then that means I can never have a bad night again. Of course,
Yeah.
like it happens to all of us. And even like we describe, it's like a little bit of those fears coming back again. Totally normal. It can happen, but if you respond to them like you did, it doesn't become a cycle. It's thanks so much for sharing that. And with that said, we got some questions. First, some people just saying hi. We'll say hi to Marco. Hi, Marco. Nice seeing you. And Brandon, yeah, long time no see. Nice seeing you back, of course. But yeah, let's jump in and see what question we have. We have Jennifer Santana, who says, I just came back from my Mexico vacation and sleep was very choppy for me. Now that I'm home, I'm extremely fatigued. Any tips? I am stuck in the sleep maintenance phase. I wake up 3 times a night and I still count my hours. Maybe we can look at both these questions. So first of all, I just came back from Mexico. Sleep was very choppy. Now that I'm home, I'm extremely fatigued. Any tips? What comes to your mind when you hear this one, Veronika?
I think it's very normal to have a choppy sleep, especially when we are on vacation. That's just what I actually shared. That our brain is basically on high alert, looking for any threats, and it really doesn't come with a peaceful sleep, this hyperarousal that we experience. So first of all, normalizing it, it's very normal. And when you are feeling extremely fatigued, I think that comes from this choppy sleep and all these, or I would say not only choppy sleep, but also all the worrying and wondering and pondering, why am I fatigued? But actually, regarding to my camping trip, I have something else to add, which really relates to this question. After these 4 days, because I was there alone with my kids, without my husband, so I really, all these 4 days, I didn't have really not a half an hour for a break, like to calm down. And when I came back home, I just threw away all the stuff, just give my kids to my husband. And from that moment, I experienced such an extreme fatigue that it took me several days to recover. And I really experienced, like, all this insomnia journey is experiential learning. And I literally experienced how much this hyperarousal, being on high alert all the time, because that's what we are all the time. We are hyperaroused when we have insomnia. And this is exactly what you call, Daniel, post-arousal fatigue. I really wasn't able to do anything like for 2 or 3 days until I really recovered, until I really felt like myself. So really, Jennifer, it's normal and expected, and do something for self-care for you. Like if you are too tired, just rest, enjoy yourself, watch movies, read books, and really do only the minimum stuff that you have to do. That's what I did.
That's super nice. And just to go over this teaching for anyone who hasn't heard it before, like the post-arousal fatigue, the idea is basically that when we are in this hyper alert, hyper vigilant state that we are in when we're maybe excited, but mostly when insomnia always we're scared, right? And we have all these worry thoughts and everything like that. It actually, the hyperarousal actually masks our fatigue because we're so on edge. So we don't even notice that we're fatigued. Like it's kind of like suppressed by it. But then when we start maybe learning, or when we get home from a trip, for example, and we're no longer like, the brain is like, oh, we don't really need to be hyper alert here. We can let go of that. Or when we learn through education, then we're no longer so scared of anything. And when the hyperarousal comes down, our fatigue is like unmasked, and then we fully feel the effect of all the worrying and maybe the time travel itself, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, normalizing that's so helpful, and deploying kindness so helpful. So not much more to add. Let's see. We might get to Jennifer's other question in a second, but let's jump into another one first, and it's from Amelia. Amelia says, "Hi there. Which are your advice about obsessions like I don't sleep before I pee 3 times when I get up early in the morning? Sometimes I have those obsessions. It's very, very irritating." All right, so I think we can hear this idea that it's basically like, if I don't do this, or if this doesn't happen, then I'm not going to sleep at all. Common, of course, but yeah, what are your thoughts when you hear this, Veronika?
I have to say that also the peeing is part of the hyperarousal, and it was also my experience on the camping trip. The first night I really had to go like 8 or 10 times to pee because of the hyperarousal and being so hyper vigilant. And really, it's about basically 2 options. Either you just pee 3 times and then you go to bed, or you don't pee and see what happens, and see the fear, what is coming up, or anxiety, or basically see what is showing up for you. And then you will see for yourself, like what emotions is lying underneath this. And when you experience this emotion, they usually fade. Like I'm sorry, I lost my thread.
Yeah, any emotion, really, any emotion that we don't sort of like try to fight against, it's not amplified anymore, and
Yeah, exactly.
it fades away, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would say that, like, when we use the word obsession, what are we talking about? We all know what are we talking about, because we've all of us have at some point experienced that we have like the same thought over and over and over and over again, and we just call that obsession. But it's really just like having the same thought over and over. Word, that's kind of like an obsession, right? And then we can wonder, why is that? Well, the brain is this like problem solving machine again. So when it identifies a problem, it's going to send us some kind of suggestion, some kind of thought, right? And maybe the thought is like, oh, you have to pee 3 times or you won't sleep. Why did it come up with that idea? We don't really know. It's always going to be a mystery. But when it has some idea, some suggestion, it can repeat it over and over and over again. And I think oftentimes the tricky part is when we think, oh, I'm obsessing. That's not normal. I have to stop that. I have to stop myself from obsessing. Now we're in this kind of inner struggle, because now we're in like, the brain is trying to tell us something. We're trying to say, no, don't tell me that. Then it's like, oh no, I got to tell you that. Then we're like, don't tell it that. And now even more so, the same thought happens over and over again. So in a weird way, I think it often helps to be like, yeah, I'm getting the same thought over and over again. That is normal. Let the brain say its thing. Maybe we just go pee every time we feel like it. Maybe we decide to like, I don't need to pee. Let's just see what happens. But I think oftentimes the helpful thing is like to not necessarily label it as something negative. It's just like a thought happening over and over again, and sort of like let it happen. Just observe it, know that it comes from a good place, etc., etc. I think that can really help. Does it make sense, Veronika?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like giving into that obsession.
It's in a way, yeah. In a way, exactly. That's funny. I wrote that down. I have this list of things I want to do like a video on. And one of the things I have is like, why not cave in immediately? It's sort of like, oftentimes when people say like, I didn't want to take this pill, and I was like, should I take it? Should I not take it? And then finally I caved in and I took it, and then I fell asleep. And then like part of my brain's like, why not just cave in right away? Like, why have the struggle? It's like, maybe just do it. Anyways, we will, let's see what we have here. Let's jump in here and see what Saturn Lights wants to share with us, and we can read the following. For me, I don't feel tired, but when I tried to sleep, I just had twitches, and I know I'm going to sleep. But how do you deal with the sleep maintenance insomnia? All right. Interesting. So I think what we hear is that when Saturn lights, didn't really feel sleepy. It was just like, let me go down and try to sleep. There were some twitches, and kind of maybe knowing from the twitches that sleep is about to happen. But how do you deal with sleep maintenance insomnia? And we actually have the same question here. I'm stuck in sleep maintenance phase. I wake up 3 times a night and still can't wire. So let's go over this one. So basically, we have a question about like sleep maintenance insomnia, when we maybe fall asleep without too much struggle, but then we kind of keep waking up and not falling back asleep easily. How do we meet that? What are your thoughts on this one, Veronika?
It's very common to wake up many times throughout the night. So usually people, they do not really remember these awakenings. But when people, they have struggle with sleep, or when they really think that being awake at night is a threat, then they pay attention to these awakenings. So that's why from maybe when they basically wake up wide awake. And now what happens is they either pay attention to it, in a kind of like I would say negative way, and they wonder like, oh my goodness, I'm awake, I'm not going to sleep again, and my night is ruined, and very often this automatic thinking process just sets off, and this is what usually keeps us awake. But when we are like, but we can also see these awakenings like a way to befriend wakefulness. Okay, I'm awake, so I can make myself comfortable. I can rest in bed, or I can get up and do something nice. And this is the way how our brain unlearns the fear. Because when we normalize these nighttime awakenings, we just unlearn this fear, that we just normalize it, like, yeah, this is okay. And the next time we might wake up again, but we may not remember this, because over time our brain will not perceive being awake at night as a threat.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I have nothing real to add. Totally agree with that. Let's do one more. Let's see. Let's just do this one from Debbie. For 6 years, I've trained my brain to lie awake at night. The initial hyperarousal stressor has gone, but I'm now in a habit. Can I retrain my brain to sleep? So for 6 years, I've trained my brain to lie awake at night. The initial hyperarousal stressor is gone, but I'm now in a habit. Can I retrain my sleep? Yeah, I think if I can go first here. I think to me the answer is, of course, never any medical advice, but I think the ability to sleep, the ability for the brain to generate sleep, is not something that we can lose. And it's, to me, it's not so much about like, it's not like the brain has lost its ability to sleep and we need to retrain it to sleep. It's much more that over a time period, over years maybe, we have sort of been afraid of being awake, and we have sort of trained the brain that being awake is a threat. It's something dangerous. It's something we should avoid by doing things like sleep hygiene, or we've done things to avoid being awake at night, thereby training the brain that being awake is a threat, something dangerous that we don't want. And then exactly what we talked about before happens when we find ourselves like waking up at night. We're like, oh, this is a threat, this is dangerous. And then and we've kind of trained ourselves to be awake by teaching our brain that being awake is unsafe. So to me, it's not so much like training the brain to sleep, but more like educating ourselves that being awake is nothing dangerous. It's harmless, and then automatically, sleep happens by itself, something like that. But do you think along the same lines, Veronika, or what are your thoughts when you hear this from Debbie?
Absolutely. And also, I think what Debbie mentioned, that the initial trigger of hyperarousal is gone. I think there must be the hyperarousal present, because since she's not sleeping, that's the only reason why is that is because hyperarousal present. Maybe she might not feel it really really strong, like she doesn't have the palpitations or heavy breathing, sweating, and so whatever. But I also, for a very long time, wondered, like, what's the problem that I'm not sleeping? I'm calm, I don't have any symptoms, so I am not sleeping. But still, just like you call it, there is still a super ninja hyperarousal presence, and that's why this is still enough to not allow sleep to happen. And but I would like to also say I like the saying that sleep is always lurking in the background. So so just don't brace yourself and allow sleep to come.
Very nicely said. Right. Well, we'll conclude there. It's been really nice being back. Thanks to everyone for chiming in and for sharing your questions. And thanks, Veronika, for being here. And we'll be back soon.
Thank you. Bye.